Come have fun with us and don't forget to subscribe.
What's up, everybody? I'm Rick.
And I'm Anna, and welcome to our review of the 1937 movie A Star is Born. For those of you who are new here, hi and welcome. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to have fun with us. This channel is dedicated to Rick and mine bucket list of goals and dreams that we hope to accomplish in our lifetimes. And one of those goals for us is to watch every movie that was nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards from 1927 to 2028. To this day, we have watched 86 movies as part of that goal, the latest of which, A Star is Born, is the movie that we're gonna be talking about today. Released on April 20th, 1937, this United Artists film tells the story of a young woman who comes to Hollywood with dreams of stardom and achieves them only with the help of an alcoholic leading man whose best days are behind him.
You can see where that story takes a turn. Halfway through the synopsis that you read there, it's like, oh, what a nice story, oh.
Exactly. But let's talk about the O.
I feel like the O is the movie, you know?
Right.
We were jokingly saying, not really jokingly, but ironically saying at the end of the movie when we watched it, it's called A Star is Born, but isn't it really the story of a star's downfall? The husband's downfall rather than her rise to fame.
Because her rise to fame happens pretty quickly and without that much drama. She meets him and bam, she's a star.
She's a
like
star.
That's
after the first movie,
exactly
overnight sensation, you know?
Exactly.
His downfall is most of the movie and it's slow and you're watching it and he tries to get better and you're like, oh my god.
So maybe you would be interested to know that initially the movie was supposed to be called It Happened in Hollywood. And later on, they changed the title. Before release, they decided to change the title to A Star is Born. But yeah, I feel like it would have been a
better title,
more proper title for the story, right?
I'm really curious because, of course, this is the 1937 version. There's been numerous remakes since. I feel like the one that was nominated, what was it, 2 years ago?
Yes.
With Lady Gaga? They were singers and not actors. I wonder how that impacted the story.
So even this story is not 100% original. There have been movies with similar topic made before. This one is the first one that was successful, and then they've tried to remake it over and over again because it was a successful story.
Yeah, as they do.
But overall, what did you think about the movie?
I enjoyed this movie. It was not at all what I thought it would be, judging from the title once again. And so I was surprised, pleasantly surprised, but also it was kind of way more of a downer than I was expecting. You know, I thought like, oh, I'm going into this movie with, you know, Janet Gaynor and she's gonna become a star and it's gonna be feel goody. It wasn't really, you know, kind of like a stage door.
Yeah, that's true. It did have that bittersweet taste at the end.
It's a very similar ending with the suicide.
True. And I want to say, while the story is obviously different, also it feels like the underlying tones of why, you know, that tragic suicide happens at the end are also very similar.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's someone who, you know, is at the lowest of their career and doesn't see a way.
After they have been much higher before. So.
Exactly. To have had it and lost it, huh?
So the focus of the story, as we said, isn't really Vicky Lester, the main character's rise to fame, but rather I feel like their couple, her and her husband, and this parallel between how while her career is just like taking off and she's like gaining more and more, you know, success and recognition, his is like a free fall to hell.
And it's pretty direct, you know. The first movie she's starring is a movie they do together, and he's the one who pushed for her to be in the leading female role. And after the first, you know, preview, everybody's like, oh, she was great, but man, he's done for. And it's a bit surprising because when the movie started, he had this etiquette of he's a drunk, he's a troublemaker, but he's good, so we let him do whatever he wants, you know, up to a certain point. But then turns out he's not so good, you know. You can only go so far before people are sick of it.
The thing is that their producer also mentions several times that he's starting to slip up.
Yeah.
Like not remembering lines correctly, and you know, you have to think that even if they're recording the movie, at some point it starts to show.
It has an effect. Yeah. But he also mentioned several times, our friend Manju, by the way, who's been a lot in these movies that we've been watching. But he mentioned several times also that the public is fickle. You know, they will turn on you on a dime, and then they will like you again, and then they will, like, it comes and goes, and you're not really sure why, if you're able to read the trend, you might, come up with a new star just at the right moment, like he did with Vicky Lester. But otherwise, today they like her, tomorrow they might hate her for no clear reason.
One interesting thing that I wanted to talk about in regards to Vicky Lester is the making of the star. I feel like maybe that's the only part that is really related to
A Star is Born.
A Star is Born, of how they created this public persona for her that wasn't really her. It's not her name. It's not like the bio data that they have on her is like...
The backstory is false, the name is false. Which is something I don't know that you can do today, Just a quick Wikipedia search.
Yeah, true.
And you get the real name of any stars and then their biography from the moment they were born up until now, I think a lot of times they do use nicknames, but that are really close to their names.
Yeah.
Like whether it's their middle name, they just use the middle name and the family name, or they're called Victoria for real. They call themselves Vicky and nobody minds because it's just
the short form of your name. I see. Yeah, I think that would make more sense. And that I have seen happening. So you mentioned Janet Gaynor and Adolphe Manjou, and actually this movie has a great cast, all big names. Why don't we move on to the trivia section to look a little bit into that? The movie was directed by William A. Wellman, whom we know of because he's also the director of Wings, a movie that we watched a long, long time ago.
It's the return of people from the first year we've watched with Janet Gaynor and him.
And the movie stars, as we have mentioned, Janet Gaynor as Esther Blodgett, or Vicky Lester, whom we have seen before in, as you mentioned, Seventh Heaven and State Fair. And the director used a lot of elements related to Janet Gaynor as the actress as the real person into the movie. For example, the statuette that Vicky receives in the movie is the real statuette that Janet Gaynor had received for her role in Seventh Heaven.
Oh.
So they're using her statuette for that. Also, at the point in the movie when she walks down the street and she sees the star's footprints on the boulevard, one of the footprints that she looks at belongs to Harold Lloyd, whose footprints were right next to hers, to Janet Gaynor's footprints on the same boulevard. And actually in one of the shots you can see a little bit of her name.
They should have used that meta footprint.
I think they weren't thinking of it like that meta, but the shot was included on purpose to show that it was next to hers. What did you think of her performance? What do you think of her character?
I thought her performance was good, and she has to struggle with a lot of things throughout the movie in terms of emotional roller coaster, which her grandma warned her about, the difficulties of going to Hollywood and not making it at first and then making it, and then the sacrifice that you have to do in order to make it, even though you would have rather not made those sacrifices. She juggled all of that very well.
Right.
And it's a believable character.
I think that it's very interesting to see, really, as you said, the roller coaster of life, when you think you want one thing and then you're going in that direction. Like, she wanted to be a star, so she goes to Hollywood, but really what she finds, other than the fact that she becomes a star, is this very strong love that she has for her husband, which didn't seem to be necessarily in her plan. She never talked about love or being in love or anything like this. And then at some point these two elements become so close together. Exactly. Mm-hmm. One thing that maybe I wish I had seen in her character, in the story of her character especially, is a little bit of a return to the starting point. She leaves her hometown, her family and everything else, goes to Hollywood to become a star, and we never really see them again. The grandmother does come to visit her at the very end, but it doesn't feel like it's a return for her. I just felt like her story would have been more complete.
Yeah, she doesn't go back and help them out, it seems. Personally, I kind of wanted her to go back and just rub it in her aunt's face,
Yeah, I made it.
Yeah.
The movie also stars Frederick March as Norman Maine, whom we have seen before in Smiling Through, The Birds of Wimpole Street, Les Miserables, and Anthony Adverse.
He, in my opinion, is the highlight of this movie.
Definitely.
Not only is the movie, in my opinion, kind of more about him than about her.
Yeah, true.
His performance also outshines hers, I feel. It's difficult to play that emotion, that famous person on the downfall.
Yeah.
Who's not really sure how to take it, who's trying to keep a strong face in front of her, in front of the producer and other people, act like, it doesn't affect me that much, it's gonna be fine, we can, let go of the contract, I'm fine. But really he's not, and you see it in his eyes.
I agree. I think his performance was just excellent. And one scene that really impressed me the most is that the very final scene with him.
When he kills himself?
Right before, when he talks to her in the house. It's just the heaviness of all of everything that his character represents. You can see it on his face and in his behavior. And not only that, but his posture, everything. It's very powerful, I feel.
You also feel the choice, like before he does it, I told you, oh, that's what he's going to do, because you feel it. You feel it the way he's talking. You're like, oh, he's decided.
Yeah, I feel like also a lot of his decision had to do with his love for her in return.
Yeah, because we have the impression that he's doing it not only because it's very difficult for him to keep on living like this, but for her sake, because she was ready to
give it all up.
A career for him.
The movie also stars Adolphe Manjou as Oliver Niles, whom we have seen in The Front Page, A Farewell to Arms, 100 Men and the Girl, and Stage Door. So we've already seen him in 3 movies this year only.
Yeah. And the roles, kind of goes from a good guy, jerk, good guy.
Yeah.
Here I wasn't sure at the beginning. I'm like, oh, he's a producer just like in Stage Door. So is he going to be a jerk also? But no, he was a good guy in the end, which surprised me. He was kind of friendly.
Yes, and I feel like compared to his other roles that we've seen him in, this character was a little bit more complex in the sense that he also had different things to think about every time he made a decision.
Yeah.
It was, his production company, the career of his stars and everything else versus his friendship to these people.
Mm-hmm.
These things mingle, and how do you juggle them, and how do you let your friend out of a contract because it's in your best interest.
But even when
hard.
Norman tells him, like, oh, we can just let go of the contract right now, he's like, no, I have another movie, we can try again,
Yeah.
Because it's his friend, because if it was just an economic imperative, he would be like, yeah, people don't like you anymore.
Right, so
it's
sorry,
over.
Goodbye.
But he said, no, let's try one more time. And even after that, when Vicky asks him, maybe if we could work again, things would go better for him. He's like, okay, I'll find him a role. And if he does find him a role, but Norman is too prideful to take a
role that's not a leading role.
Yeah.
The movie also stars Lionel Sander as Matt Libby, whom we've seen before in Mr. Deed Goes to Town. Now, the reason why I put this character here is because of how I see him kind of as the counterpart of the producer. Yes. They both seem to behave in a similar way. Like, what can we do to, keep these people afloat, to keep their reputation as good as possible, in our good interest, but also in their good interest. But really at the end, while Oliver stands by his friend even in his downfall, Matt just
this was
kicks
just
him in the rear.
Professional relationship, and I never liked you, and actually I'm happy to see you fall. And even after he dies, he's happy, which is a horrible thing. So
first thing that I want to mention now about the movie is that this is the first color movie, like full color movie, that we see, as part of this goal so far.
Yeah.
It is not the first Technicolor movie ever made, but it is considered one of the first 2 such movies to be successful. Because previously, the coloring technique was just not so good. It was either too bright or too washed out. They couldn't really figure it out. But in 1937, it was this movie and the movie Nothing Sacred that managed to nail down the right way to do the Technicolor technique, and that resulted in 2 successful movies of that year.
We had the Hollywood Review of 1929. Even back then had some
yes,
colors.
We did have a scene with Technicolor, but even that one, if you think back on it, it wasn't like the quality was, as you would expect for the probably one of the first tries. Also, a little bit of information about the story. The story of this movie is an original story, but it was speculated at the time to have been inspired by the real life relationship and marriage of Barbara Stanwyck and Frank Fay, whose relationship is kind of similar to what we see in the movie, in the sense that she was an aspiring actress. He was already somewhat famous. He gets her into, the movie scene, and then while his career starts going down, her career is picking up. The real life story doesn't end as tragically. It ends in divorce. It was never confirmed that they did use that story as inspiration, but I mean, the similarities are pretty obvious. But not only that, this movie used a lot of real life Hollywood stories as inspiration. For example, the scene where Norman crushes the awards ceremony during his wife's speech. Something like this did happen to Janet Gaynor when she received her Academy Award for her role in Seventh Heaven. She had brought her sister. Her sister got really drunk and she made a scene during Janet Gaynor's speech. And another interesting element of this movie is that we see a tease in this movie.
A tease of what?
A tease of a movie to come.
A Star is Born 2, The Return of the Star?
During Vicky's screen test, which she performs with Norman, she is dressed up in a period dress, and that is a tease to the coming movie Gone with the Wind, for which the producer David Selznick had just obtained the rights and was already thinking about making the movie soon. At the time when they were filming this movie, A Star is Born, he was already on the look for an actress to play Scarlett O'Hara, the main character in Gone with the Wind. I have to admit, looking back at all the information that we have about this movie, everything that we saw, but also obviously the movie itself, you can tell that this movie has all the makings of a great Hollywood success. In my opinion. Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, it had great cast at the time, already well-established actors, a catchy story.
Yeah, but I don't feel like this movie pulls itself apart from anything we've seen that you would be like, this movie should be the success.
Really, I think so, I mean, there must be a reason why they remade it 3 times.
They remade a lot of these movies that we've seen.
Yeah, true.
Hollywood likes to remake things.
Yeah, that is also true. Anyway, at the time, it was considered a great success. It received 7 Academy Awards nominations. It was first off nominated for Best Picture or Outstanding... It was first off nominated for Best Picture or Outstanding Production, as it was known back then. Also nominated for Best Writing Original Story for William A. Wellman and Robert Carson, for which it also won. Nominated for Best Actor in a Leading Role for Frederick March. Also Best Actress in a Leading Role for Janet Gaynor. Best Writing Screenplay for Alan Campbell and Robert Carson. And Best Assisting Director for Eric Stacey. And this movie is also the recipient of an honorary Academy Award that it received for the color photography.
Are we entering an era of color? We are not. We still have a lot of black and white.
Not entirely, but I'm expecting to see them from now on. Little by little,
From time to time, yeah.
So before we conclude this, is there anything else that you would like to talk about?
No, I think we've gone around all of the main topics about this movie.
And would you recommend it?
Yes, I would. Especially, I guess, for people who have watched kind of a reverse of us, who have watched the newer version, try to watch this one and see the difference. And for us to go and watch the newer ones, which we will eventually for this whole.
Yes, I agree. And obviously, I would recommend it too. I think this movie has great performances, really good story. It's very interesting to see one of the earliest color movies. So, yeah. And that being said, I think it is now time for us to move on to the ranking. Every year, as you might already know, we are ranking all the movies that were nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards for that year, according to our likings and preferences, of course. And the list of the year 1937 as of now is at number 8, The Awful Truth, at number 7, In Old Chicago, at number 6, The Good Earth, at number 5, 100 Men and the Girl, at number 4, Dead End, at number 3, Stage Door, at number 2, Captain's Courageous, and at number 1, Lost Horizon. Rick, where would you put this movie on this list?
I would put it at number 4.
So above Dead End.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I would agree with that.
Right below stage door. And I guess the real question for me was stage door or this. I feel like I enjoyed the dialogue in stage door more, and all of the characters were more fleshed out, and at the same time we talked about that in stage door, not fleshed out in a purposeful way, just to like make them real.
Stage door does deserve to stay above Star is Born. In my opinion, we did praise this movie for its performances, but stage door I feel had even better performances overall. And yeah, you're right, like the way the distribution of all the characters, the screen time for each character, I feel was much better, and with a lot more characters than in this case. So
I feel like here Norman Maine is the highlight, and stage door we had several highlights.
So the new ranking of the year 1937 is at number 9, The Awful Truth, at number 8, In Old Chicago, at number 7, The Good Earth, at number 6, 100 Men and the Girl, at number 5, Dead End, at number 4, A Star is Born, at number 3, Stage Door, at number 2, Captain's Courageous, and at number 1, Lost Horizon. We are almost done. We only have the winner.
Yeah, the winner.
The winner. And we will see it in our next video. So if you don't want to miss it, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Also give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And don't forget that this is not just a movie review channel, it is a bucket list channel, and we have so many goals and dreams on that bucket list. They include things like traveling and learning new things and playing video games, and yes, watching movies also. And we make videos about all of them and we bring them all to you. So yeah, please subscribe if you want to follow us through our adventures. Also, don't forget, if you yourself have a goal or a dream that you're hoping to accomplish, take that first step.
Bye.